Hello from gardening at Douentza here in Ireland, and this video is about 5 orchids that should have flowered this year but didn't. So round about this time last year I made a video about the 5 orchids that I thought would have flowered but hadn't done, and since it was well received, I thought I'd make the same video again. I'm going to dive right in and show you the 5 orchids that I'm complaining about this year. And then at the end, there'll just be a little update on last year's 5. So first up, we have the orchid there on the right. And this is Catatante Pacific Sunburst. It's a beautiful oncidium type orchid that has browny orange flowers, loads and loads of sprays of them, and it is just gorgeous. So I was absolutely delighted when a friend of mine gifted this to me 3 years ago. Now, as you can see, it's a healthy looking plant, lots and lots of new growth, and that's what it does. It grows and it grows and it makes new pseudobulbs and it puts them up, but it just doesn't flower. I've tried various things, including giving it more light, which is why it has these spots on the leaves. That's nothing to worry about. This particular orchid and a number of oncidium types, if given too much light, it's like freckles they get on their leaves, trying to adjust to it. So that's nothing to worry about. It just means I've been, well, experimenting and trying to get the plant to have enough light to flower. And this one has been recently repotted. I actually divided a little bit and sent a piece off to Anna Maria just recently. But it just won't flower, no. And the very strange thing is that Tina, my friend who gave me this, also bought a plant for herself at the same time. And hers has exactly the same story. It grows big and healthy and bushy, but absolutely no sign of flowers. So I'm just hoping that it'll sort itself out in the end, because I have had this kind of experience with supermarket bought paphs and cold dendrobiums, that they take a couple of years to kind of sort themselves out after whatever treatment they've been given. And fingers crossed for this one, because wherever I go, whether it's the Dublin Orchid Show, I see this plant in flower, and it's just gorgeous, glorious. That combination of orange and brown is just exactly what I love. So yeah, I'd love to see this one flower sometime. I thought it was going to be last year, but fingers crossed, hopefully next year. And we have to go up a level to see the next plant that I want to complain about. So past the Hoya here, and here we have it. It's this hanging plant, and it's Blossom Bounty. Cattlianthe Blossom Bounty, which I grew to flowering size from a seedling. This plant has pretty pink flowers that kind of droop from the top of the pseudobulb and hang down. Very nice, very attractive flower. But then, surprise, surprise, this year it just didn't flower at all. Now, if you look at the leaves here, you can see that they're kind of creased, thickened and warped. So this may be from a calcium deficiency, and in fact I've read that Guarante aurantiaca and its hybrids tend to suffer from calcium deficiencies. So I'm going to have to do something about that. Now there are various options I've been reading up about, and one is to go along to aquarium supplies and get your hands on some calcium nitrate. The second is, well, if you live in the country and you have chickens like me, get your hands on some oyster grit and grind it up, because that has calcium. And a third option that my friend has done is to go down to the beach and pick up some oyster shells and grind them up there if you live near the coast. The amount you need is so small that it's negligible, but it is important to the health of the plant. So yeah, I'm going to have to try that in earnest. Haven't done so yet, although I have repotted this plant this year and taken 2 divisions off it. So this plant has tried to flower this year, but the buds aborted, And this is a plant that doesn't produce sheaths, so the buds just come out from the top of the pseudobulbs. So they're, well, I suppose, particularly vulnerable to environmental factors like low humidity. In any case, all of my buds withered and died this year. So I'm going to try something with the calcium for next year, and well, let's hope we'll be back to normal. The third plant on my list of fails for this year, plants that should have flowered but didn't, is this Cattleya. And it's a hybrid. What's it called again? It's called Momilani Rainbow the Gypsy. And I was given it 2 years ago by a friend. Don't I have great friends? Isn't it great when you have friends that give you orchids? Anyway, this friend was getting rid of his orchid collection, and he had a number of Cattleyas that weren't in super shape. And he gave me a number of them, and it has taken a while for them to recover. But this plant here, it looks quite good, you know. Last year, I really thought it was going to flower. You can see that some of the pseudobulbs are a bit shriveled, but the newest one here, which came about last year, or last year I suppose, is nice and plump, and I really thought this one might have given me some flowers. The flowers are beautiful. They're, well, you know, I've never seen them in reality, but I have Googled them, and they're yellow with peach mixed in, and then the very tips of the petals have a pink blob on them. So I really would like to see the flowers of this one. And there really doesn't seem to be much wrong with this orchid at all. So it was a shame it didn't flower for me last year, but fingers crossed for next. And disappointment number 4 has to go to another plant I got from the same person. And it's this Vanda here, Vanda coerulea. I've had this one flower for me on several occasions, and it's just beautiful, beautiful big blue flowers. So my friend who was getting rid of its collection, he was very fond of Vandas. So right up until near the end, while some of them suffered, he made sure that the Vandas didn't. I'm just going to try and reach over there now and see if I can get down the Vanda without creating a whole load of damage. And I'll show you what I think the problem was this year. Over we go. Okay, so up at the top here, you can see there the brown stems there from where it flowered in previous years, and there, and then up at the point where this plant should have flowered last year, you can see that there's some brown withering, and some water must have gotten in there and rotted or damaged the grow point. Very bad to get water into leaf axils on Vandas. So I think that was last year's chance for flowering, and it got messed up by a bit of careless watering, and I got no flowers, which is very sad. But I do hope that this one will be back to normal again, because it's my, in terms of Vandas, it really is my pride and joy. And the 5th plant that really should have flowered for me this year, but didn't, is this little one here at the front. It's a Dendrobium Jenkins CI. And in fact, this one was featured in last year's video, because the same story. I thought then it was going to flower and it didn't. And I thought last year it was going to flower and it didn't. And still it disappoints. Now, why didn't I get rid of this plant? And the answer is simple. When I went to repot it, I realized that it was actually 2 plants in one. There was a smaller second plant in the pot. So perhaps this plant isn't really flowering size, or wasn't really flowering size. In any case, I removed the smaller division. It went off in a plant swap to Anna Maria in Romania, where indeed the Dendrobium loddigesii that I complained about in last year's video also went. Now, what I did for this one, the Jenkins CI and the loddigesii that's gone, is that last year I potted them in pure sphagnum. So just to ensure that they get the humidity and the watering that they require in spring. Now, I was still watering them once a week, so perhaps it wasn't quite good enough. In any case, with the loddigesii, it didn't flower. So enough is enough. It grew massively for the first time. It grew massively last year, But enough was enough, and off we went to Anne-Marie in a plant swap. But I thought I'd give the little jenkinsii another chance because the pseudobulbs are really cute. I'm going to put a link up above to a video here by Roger Frampton, who grows this plant, and he has a very big specimen which looks so cute with the pseudobulbs. Plants that, you know, have something attractive going for them other than flowers. Well, they get a longer shelf life, a longer lease of life here in this place, let's just say. So that was my video about the 5 orchids that should have flowered for me this year and didn't. And I'm going to put a link up above to the video I made last year and the 5 that were in my selection then. Just a quick word about those 5 from last year, and there were 2 large Cattleyas in it, the King of Taiwan and Sierra Skies, both of which have flowered since then, so that was really good news. And the 3rd Cattleya was a species 1, Coerulea mossiae, and here it is. And oopsie, the good news is that it has 5 sheaths. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Now it's had these 5 sheets forever, since the beginning of last summer, I think. And there's no sign of any, I'm in my own shadow here, and there's no sign of darkening inside the sheath, indicating that a bud is coming. But I know that this plant is in sheath for a long time, so I'm going to be quietly optimistic that I'm going to get something out of this at the end. It would look fantastic if I had 5 flower spikes. Now, just recently, this sheath has gone brown like that. I don't know if that's what mossiae does. If you know and you can tell me, then please drop a comment down below. Perhaps the sheaths go brown before the buds appear. I hope so, because I would just love to see this in flower. If it does bloom, you'll be sure of a video. You'll be the first to know, well, except for all my neighbours who'll hear the ginormous yell that'll come out of me. And I'll make a video about it to be sure. So I think I've covered all 5 of the ones in last year's video now, because the 2 dendrobiums I already talked about. In fact, the jenkinsii is featured again this year in this video. Okay, so that's it. That was my video. That's the end. I aim to post videos every 2 days, so do subscribe if you want to see more of the same stuff, and check back again for lots more horticultural fun. Bye now.